congregation here at Ashflat, I want to welcome you, and especially to the graduates. We're happy that you're here, and we wish you all the success in your endeavors. As you can see, this program will be video, and Cindy will be in the back after the program is over for anyone that wishes to sign up for a video of this. The audio will be free and the video will be $5. Adam Nicholson.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come here now and just thank you for all the many blessings you've given us. Lord, I pray that you'll be with everyone here, keep us happy and safe. And I pray that you'll be with the seniors as we graduate and move on. Lord, I pray that you'll look out for us in the future and be with the senior first.
Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." Before I moved here in the 4th grade, I had never attended a public school. Except for 1 year in a small private school, I had always been taught at home. Naturally, I was a little bit nervous on my first day in the middle school. The whole lunch card thing really frightened me. It seemed like there were thousands of kids. I had no idea where they were all coming from. I was never going to be able to learn all of their names, let alone become friends with them. My plan was just to make it through that first day. God, however, had better plans. Perhaps she pitied me, a shrimpy girl with huge goggle-eye glasses and dorky clothes. But Jenny Estes quickly came to my rescue that first day. She revealed the mysteries of the lunchroom and displayed an incredible memory as she introduced me to all the other kids I thought I'd never meet. The next year, I suffered the grave misfortune of meeting Jay Brogdon. A constant source of irritation, frustration, and inspiration, Jay forced me to study and work hard in my classes, even if it was only so I could take home more trophies than him at the end of the year's Scholastic Awards. In the last 5 years, I have experienced harmony with my French horn buddy, Bethany Street, the pains of exercise with Michelle and Christy Vaughn in basketball. I've endured boyfriends with Gretchen Maddox, some mine, mostly hers. I have struggled through algebra with Justin Beller, argued with Jason Heislip, and have had reason to laugh thanks to the antics of Adam Nicholson. While I did not imagine becoming part of this community or having friends who are so dear to me now when I entered the middle school 8 years ago, God had more than imagined it. He knew. In His grace, He gave me friends who encouraged me, exhorted me, comforted me, and forgave me. His gifts to me have been these friends who have shown me aspects of Christ through their own actions. As the verse promises, He has plans for our lives, plans to prosper us and not harm us, to give us hope and a future. We will graduate and face what may seem an uncertain future. We may fear making the grade in college, moving away from home, taking on a new job, or getting married. God's plans include our future. His grace enables us to go ahead, stepping confidently into that future, knowing that God is already there. The Lord Himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Deuteronomy 31:8.
No, it was my turn. I was waiting for a song. Y'all ready over there? All right, go to sleep. Stay ready. You know why you're sitting up front? Huh? We worked it out that way. Your parents told us y'all don't need to sit in the back, but y'all need it up front. Oh, don't believe it. I don't think we all let them go. What do y'all think? Think we need to keep them a little longer? I think they need a little longer to stay. I'm glad to see Coach, his wife, the Brogdons, here together this evening. And I'm glad to see them working things out. I called over there one evening, and Mary Catherine answered the phone. I said, "Can I speak to your mother?" And she said, "Mom don't live here anymore." But y'all keep it up. I think we're going to make it. Last year at prom, we chaperoned the prom, and Miss Brogdon came up to me last year, and she said, "Listen, next year for baccalaureate service, I want to speak." She said, "This class is close to me. It's been close to me for a long time, and I want to speak." And I said, "Okay, that'll be fine." So I went home and I told Cindy, my wife, I said, when you make out the schedule, you be sure I go first. There's no way I'm going to follow her. I said, she's got too much heart into this class, and she has been close to this class for a long, long time. Miss Brogdon and I have been and continue to work on a good relationship with each other. She really cares about the students, I do believe. I was in her class one day, and there was a young man there in class, and boy, I'm telling you, she lit into him, and she reamed him out, and she chewed up one side of him and down the other side of him, and then chewed on him some more. I thought, boy, I wish I had a tape player. This would make a good 2-hour sermon. And but she did that because she cared about that boy, and she does, I believe, care about students. She's smart. Boy, I mean, she's sharp as a tack. Quick. She's real quick. In fact, I tell you, I'm going to think of a word for her to use in a sentence when she gets up here just off the cuff. Fascinate. Fascinate would be a good word. I want to see how you do with that. We're going to have a reception after this is over. Everybody knew that, right? Everybody's invited to that. We've got something special. It was going to be a surprise. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it is for you special students. Let me see. We have a gallon of pickle juice. Honey, we didn't forget you, all right? You're going to enjoy it. I don't know how many times I've changed my mind over the last year as to what I was going to say this evening. And last Wednesday, I thought about changing again what I was going to say. But because this is an exceptional class, because this is a spiritually minded class, I feel like what I've got to say tonight is probably going to be the only class, graduating class, that I can really say this to. So I stuck with what I was planning on, and my text is James chapter 4, verses 13 through 17. Now, I want y'all to listen closely. All of you who you're fixing to graduate from high school, and you're going to go off and get you a job, or you're going to go off to one of those schools of higher learning. I want you to listen to what James says here as he says, now listen. That's what he says. Now listen. When the Bible says, mark this, or listen, that means really pay close attention. Now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow, we're going to go to this city or that city and spend a year there and carry on business and make money. He says, why, you don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. What is your life? You're a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. And so, instead, you ought to say, if it's the Lord's will, we're going to live and do this or that. As it is, you boast and you brag, and all such boasting is evil. And anyone of them who knows the good that he ought to do, and he doesn't do it, sins. Now, I've got 4 quick points for you tonight, because I don't want to take any time from this broad. I've got 4 quick points for you tonight. Graduating seniors. Point number 1 deals with the brevity of life. The brevity of life. I remember when Jacob started kindergarten. And he had his little backpack, and he was getting, ready to get on that school bus. And I was there in the kitchen drinking coffee, and I said, Jacob, do you want me to walk with you down to the bus? And he said, nope. Oh, he had his mind made up. And so he was determined he was going to make that trek all by himself. And I watched him go out the door. Boy, it was a sad day around the direction home that day, I want to tell you. He said he booked around all day. Going off to school. I don't know what he's going to do when he goes off to college. But I watched him go down that long driveway, boy, hop on that bus, and I stood there. watching that, and it was all I could do to keep from going out there and getting in the car and following that bus all the way to school. I wanted to follow that bus. And, boy, that seems like it was just yesterday. A few years ago, Jacob turned 15. He was in his grandmother's living room with a calculator. Boy, he had to take it away, and she said, "What are you calculating there?" He said, "I'm calculating how many hours it is till I turn 16. And now here it is, 18, and the rest of you are 18. Last week he had a birthday, and I went to the grocery store and bought some helium balloons for his birthday party, and the guy was filling these balloons up, and he said, "How old is he?" And I said, "He's 18. And he said, "Boy, I remember when I turned 18. I really remember when I turned 18. I said, "You do?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "How old are you now?" He said, 19. That's the truth. How many of you, when you first started the 10th grade, those next 3 years went by just like that? Huh? Did they go by pretty quick? I remember the 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. Well, let me take that back. The first 3 years of the 10th grade, and then the 11th grade, and the 12th grade, were the fastest years of school that I ever experienced. If you think those went by fast, you ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet. James says, "You're a mist that appears for a little while." When I come across folks in their 80s, 90s, I always ask this question: does your life seem like it's going by pretty fast? And I get the same answer. That you wouldn't believe how fast, how quickly life goes by. Now I would tell all of you in this graduating class that you have a little amount of time. You have a very, very small amount of time to accomplish some things and to make some differences. Some of you may make some big differences for the entire nation. Some of you may make some differences for the state of Arkansas. Some of you may make some differences for our community right here. But one thing's for sure, all of you will make some differences for somebody. You're going to make some differences for you. You're going to make some differences for your immediate family. Make those differences good differences and work at it hard because you have a small amount of time. Point number 2 has to do with accountability before God. James speaks of evil and good in verses 16 through 17. And in this text, here's a verse that I didn't read a while ago. I read verses 13 through 17. Verse 12 says this: "There is only one lawgiver and judge, the one who's able to save and to destroy." You're all accountable. You're all accountable to that one lawgiver. You're all accountable to that one judge. The United States of America now says that you're all old enough to go buy a tobacco product. The United States of America says that you're all old enough to vote now. And that you're all old enough, listen to this, boy, this will blow your mind, that you're all old enough to go to war. And that you're all old enough to kill in war. And that you're all old enough to die in war. That means you're all old enough also to be Christians. And if any of you aren't Christians, I want to encourage you to take care of that business and take care of that quickly. Grandpa was visiting with his grandson. His grandson was fixing to graduate from high school. And his grandfather said, "Son, what are you going to do when you get out of high school?" And the boy said, "Well, I'm going to go off to college." He said, "Well, what are you going to do then?" And his grandson said, "Well, I'm going to graduate from college, going to get my degree, going to get a good job." His grandfather said, "Well, what are you going to do then?" He said, "Well, I guess someday, I'm going to meet the right girl, I'm going to get married." He said, "Well, what then?" He said, "Well, we'll probably have children. I'll raise those children. One day they'll go off to college just like I am." His grandfather said, "What then?" Well, he said, "They'll probably have children, and I'll be a grandparent, and one of these days, I'm going to retire." And his grandfather said, "What then?" And the boy said, "Well, one of these days, I guess I'm going to die." His grandfather said, "What then?" You're all accountable to God. You're accountable for your priorities that you set it up. Nobody else can set them for you. You're going to set your own priorities. Now let me share with you God's priorities. Let me share with you the Bible's priorities that the Lord gives you to live by. Number 1, and I'm not going to throw a lot of scripture in here because we don't have time. Just quickly give these to you. Number 1, God first. Nobody else can come first. Nothing else can come first. God must come first in all aspects of life. Number two, your physical family comes second. The spouse that you will one day have. The children that you will one day have. Your fathers, your mothers, your siblings. Your physical family comes second. And it's very ironic that the first two here is where our nation is already made. All the problems that's going on in our nation this evening is because they don't have these first two at the top of the list. God first, physical family second. Number three, church family third. Church family third. It's important. That's important. If you don't have a good church family, I encourage you, especially when you go off to college, find a good church family. Find a good church that's a Bible-believing church. And you get involved in that church and you continue to go to that church, get a good church family, stay with that good church family. God first, physical family second, church family third. Number four, everybody else. Everybody else then comes next. And then, guess what number five is? Anybody want to guess? That's right. You're second. Right down there at the bottom of the list. Most have self at the top of the list. Tragic mistake. Even those who seem that they're running after materialism or they're running after hedonism, they still have self at the top because materialism and hedonism is doing nothing but just feeding their own selfish desires. I heard this story last week. I like this story about that CEO of a large company that went to Mexico to go fishing. And he got down there and he ran across a little Mexican boy or man. And this man had a great big stringer of fish. And boy, it was early in the morning. And the CEO of this large company said, "How long did it take you to catch all those fish?" And the Mexican said, "Oh, just a few minutes." He said, "Well, what are you going to do with the rest of your time today?" He said, "Well, I'll go to the house." He said, "I've already got all the fish we need for today, so I'll just go on to the house, and I'll spend some time this morning playing with my children. And then this afternoon, I'll take a siesta with my wife. And then this evening, I'll leave the house, and I'll mosey on down to town, and I'll spend some time having fun with my amigos." Well, the CEO of the large company said, "Man, you're out of your mind." He said, "I tell you what you ought to do. You ought to start your own fishing business. You ought to buy you a boat." He said, "In fact, you ought to buy you a fleet of boats. Why, you could get busy and get working on that. You could be a millionaire." The Mexican said, "How long would it take me to be a millionaire?" The CEO said, "30 or 40 years." And the Mexican said, "Well, what would I do then?" He said, "Well, you'd retire." And the Mexican said, "Well, what would I do when I retire?" And the CEO said, "Well, you could go out in the morning and you could fish. And you can spend some time with your grandchildren, and you can take a siesta with your wife, and you can stroll on downtown and spend some time with your amigos." I like that story. The reason I like that story is because it's so true to life. That there are so many people that are looking for happiness and contentment and satisfaction in far-off places, and they don't realize that they can find those things if their priorities are right. Number three deals with the providence of God. James says in our text, these folks that have the idea of, "Boy, I'm going to go to this city, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get this job, and I'm going to make money." James says, he says, you ought to say, "If it's the Lord's will, you're going to do these things." In verse 17 he says, "Anyone then who knows the good that he ought to do and doesn't do it sins." And the good that James is talking about here in this immediate context is depending upon, relying upon the providence of God working in life. The providence of God. The providence of God. The providing care of God. Putting Him first. Knowing that He's with you anywhere that you go. Knowing that He's leading you and He's guiding you. And He's working in your life. And He's providing you with everything that you need in life. You keep your priorities right. You keep your priorities straight, and I'll guarantee you that the Lord is going to bless you, and He's going to use you in many, many wonderful ways. I like Ephesians 3:20 where Paul says, "Now to Him who is able to do." Our God is a can-do God. Our God is a God who's able to do. Paul says, "To Him who's able to do immeasurably more, meaning more than you could ever measure, immeasurably more than all we can ask and all we can imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. Depend upon, lean on the providence of God. Number 4 deals with ministering for the Lord. We have come to the point in our nations that we just have to have more ministers. You may be thinking, oh, let's get out of here. He's trying to get us to go to seminary. No. That's not what this idea of evangelizing the world, taking the good news of Jesus to all that are lost, we're never going to do that depending upon a few specialists. We're not even going to make a dent in it depending upon a few specialists, depending upon a few preachers. Every Christian must be a minister. I told this to our church this morning. I said, how many Christians we have here in our church? That's how many ministers that we have in our church. Every Christian. Every Christian man must be a minister. Every Christian woman must be a minister. Every Christian teenager must be a minister, must be a servant of the Lord. Now this is the way I want you to look at your vocation. Here's the way I want you to look at the job that you're going to have one of these days. I want you to view your job not as the most important thing, but you just view your job as a job that supports you financially so that you can be a minister. And so that you can go through your life doing the most important thing. Oh, Littleton, Colorado. You know, the little girl that was asked if she was a Christian. Y'all know which one I'm talking about. You know, in my opinion, that was the shock that was heard around the world. That shock was important. And that's the faith, her faith, is the type of faith that Jesus wants us to have. That's the type of faith that we have to develop in our own lives. That's the type of faith that we've got to share with others. Now I want to say these last closing remarks on behalf of all the parents, all the grandparents. When the day comes, those of us who make it, we're going to walk heaven looking for you. We're going to be looking. That is the most important thing. There's not anything else in life that's more important than going to heaven. And you all be sure of your faith. You don't want to miss it. Don't go out in life and run off to college and leave Jesus at home. Don't go and marry somebody who's going to hinder your relationship with God. Don't go and get a job that's going to draw you away from Him. Every decision that you make in life, you make with the question of, is this going to help me or hinder me from being happy? About a month ago, my telephone rang. I was sleeping very, very soundly about midnight. My phone rang. And it was an HHS graduate leaving the top. Come across some hard times in life. Now, the reason I brought that up is to tell you that there's always going to be a parent back at home in college. Or there's always going to be a Christian friend back at home in college. Or there's always going to be a minister, or a youth director, or an elder, or a deacon, or a Bible class teacher, or a school teacher. A Christian school teacher. For you all to call when times are hard and when you need help. And don't you ever forget it. God bless you. God bless you all.
I'll get to fascinate later on.
few years ago, I discovered a wonderful book called Even Eagles Need a Push. The book is one of those inspirational, motivational, self-help books that school teachers seem to zone in on when we walk into bookstores. In the foreword or the preface of the book, the author, David McNally, relates a story to the reader. I'd like to share it with you. The eagle gently coaxed her offspring toward the edge of the nest. Her heart quivered with conflicting emotions as she felt their resistance to her persistent nudging. Why does the thrill of soaring have to begin with the fear of falling, she thought. This ageless question was still unanswered for her. As in the tradition of the species, her nest was located high on the shelf of a sheer rock face. Below there was nothing but air to support the wings of each child. Is it possible that this time it will not work, she thought? Despite her fears, the eagle knew it was time. Her parental mission was all but complete. There remained but one final task, the push. The eagle drew courage from an innate wisdom. Until her children discovered their wings, there was no purpose for their lives. Until they learned to soar, they would fail to understand the privilege it was to have been born an eagle. The push was the greatest gift she had to offer. It was her supreme act of love. And so, one by one, she pushed, and they flew. You see, by instinct, the eagle knows where to build that nest. High on that sheer rock face near the edge, so that when the time does come to push those little eaglets, to push them out of that nest, so that at that moment when they begin to fall, instinctively, those little wings begin to flop and flitter and flutter until they eventually learn to dive, to ascend, to glide, to spin, and to soar. They are a powerful presence in the skies. Class of 1999, much like those little eaglets, you have been loved and nurtured, protected by many of the people you see here today. I'd like to look back into your nests, into the homes and the schools where this all began, and where from time to time you have received a little nudge. From the moment of your birth, parents, relatives, family, friends have loved you, cared for you. Through them, you discovered that this was your ear and this was your nose. From them, you learned your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s. During those preschool years, these people provided hugs, played games, patched owies. They prepared you physically, mentally, and emotionally for the next stop, kindergarten. For weeks, months probably in your homes, there was the excited talk about school, that first day of school. And when that fateful day arrived, you got that first nudge. Now, for some of you, that nudge was not so easy. I can remember 1 or 2 of you crying. Seems like somebody in this class had her arms around her mama's neck and her legs around her mama's waist. And mamas, don't be laughing. Because I saw some mamas who didn't want to let go too. Some of those mamas had to be nudged. But you soon learned that a teacher could give hugs, could play games, could fix owies. And those ABCs and 1, 2, 3s began to take on new meaning as those teachers began to expand your knowledge. You learned to walk in a single file to recess, to the lunchroom, and to the water fountain. You were taught to share, to respect, and to care with and for others. And just as that little nest began to feel pretty comfortable and secure, it was time for another nudge, and off you went to middle school. There weren't quite as many hugs there. The games had become organized activities, and the owies sometimes required a little bit more than a Band-Aid. You had more than one teacher. You had to change classes from time to time, but you didn't have to do that in a single file formation. And you learned to be responsible. You learned to be tolerant, to be supportive of one another. As 7th graders, you were beginning to show an air of confidence until nudge time. And in an instant, you were living the nightmare of being an 8th grader. But people were hugging again. The games became athletics, and an owie was now an injury requiring insurance data. You were assigned a lock and a locker and told to memorize it. You were given a handbook, told to memorize the rules and the alma mater. And on top of that, you were in awe of the surroundings and Coach Mag. After a year of learning how to be humble, you became freshmen. And with that label of high school student came newfound opportunities and responsibilities in academics, athletics, extracurricular activities, and attitudes. And you accepted those challenges and have become a powerful presence. Academically, you have gone into math classes and learned algebraic functions, geometric shapes, theorems, and for some even college algebra. In the science labs, you have collected specimens, dissected animals, researched data, and traveled on a mission to the moon. As students in the English classrooms, you have strengthened your knowledge of basic grammar, usage, and mechanics. You've become powerful writers, and you've traveled around the world in your readings from literature. Through the social studies department, you've pondered the history of civilization, the power of politics, and the atrocities of war. You've been taught the rights and responsibilities of good citizenry, and you have become good citizens. In addition to those 4 main disciplines, you've developed many skills and abilities through a variety of elective classes. You as a class have earned hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships with your powerful presence in the classroom. Athletically, this class has excelled at the fields and courts of play, setting records and winning championships. Through athleticism and sportsmanship, you have brought a renewed commitment to Rebel Pride. Your powerful presence has been felt in a new conference and seen throughout the state. In extracurricular and interscholastic activities, you have excelled in competitions including band, choir, cheerleading, art, Future Homemakers of America, Future Farmers of America, and Future Business Leaders of America. Clubs and organizations have benefited from your leadership skills. The desire to be a powerful presence led to the formation of Dixie Pride. And the attitude of this class has been exemplary. Values, friendliness, integrity, maturity, and dependability are just a few of the words used as descriptors. individually and collectively, you have been a powerful presence at Highland High School, in this community, and in your churches. But now, that time is nearing for the push. The time has come for parents, teachers, friends, mentors, preachers, to acknowledge that despite our reluctance, perhaps some fears, we, like the eagles, know that it's part of our mission is all but complete. And, like the eagle, we draw courage from that innate wisdom that you must discover your own wings. I believe this anonymous form is an example of a good flight pattern or a daily life schedule for you. Take time to work. It is the price of success. Take time to think. It is the source of power. Take time to play. It is the secret of perpetual youth. Take time to read. It is the fountain of wisdom. Take time to be friendly. It is the road to happiness. Take time to love and be loved. It is the nourishment for the soul. Take time to share. It is too much short a life to be selfish. Take time to laugh. It is the music of the heart. And take time to dream. It is hitching your wagon to a star. No matter how wonderful or perhaps how uncertain the future may be or may look to you at this time, we must push. It is the greatest gift we can afford you. It is our supreme act of love, and you must fly. The possibilities for this class are endless. You will dive, you will ascend, you will spin, you will glide, and because you have the foundation, because you have the education, because you have the courage, you will soar. Class of 1999, enjoy your flight.
Dear Heavenly Father, I'd like to thank everyone that came here tonight and thank you for the safe trip here. Lord, thank you for giving us friends, us seniors in 99, the opportunity to share the many friendships you have given to us. Lord, we are about to enter the real world, and your love and guidance will be needed more than ever. I hope, Lord, we can become a shining light for you in our communities and homes so that people can see what being a Christian is all about. You have given us so many pleasures and blessings in our lives we don't even deserve. Lord, please guide everyone safely home and be with ones who could not make it here. Please forgive us for any sins. In Jesus' name we pray.
By day, you reveal your love to me. Cradled in your arms, I am a precious lamb, a diamond in your sight of the Lord.
Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord.
Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord.
Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord.
And He will lift you up. And He will lift you up. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
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 That saved a wretch like me. That saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found.
I once was lost, but now I'm found.
I once was lost, but now I'm found.
Once was lost, but now I'm found.
Was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord.
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 And He will lift you up. And He will lift you up.
Love one another, for love is of God. He who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. God is love. Love one another, for love is of God. He who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. God is love. Love one another, for love is of God. He who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. God is love. Love one another, for God is of God. He who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. God is love. Love one another, for love is of God. He who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. God is love.
The dear
Thanks for the water so my soul longs after you. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. You alone make my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming here tonight. If it wasn't for you, parents, family, friends, we wouldn't be here at this place in our lives. We will have to make choices. Choices like what road we should take or what journeys we should embark on. As we look down these paths to the future, we are anxious, excited, and even a little scared. But we are equipped with two tools. We have the faith in an all-powerful God and the wisdom of those who have come before us. Max Lucado is one of those who has come before us, and I would like to share his wisdom. This is his book called You Are Special, and I'd like to read it. The Wimmicks were small wooden people. All of the wooden people were carved by a woodworker named Eli. His workshop sat on a hill overlooking the village. Each Wimmick was different. Some had big noses, others had large eyes. Some were tall, and others were short. Some wore hats, others wore coats. All were made by the same carver, and all lived in the same village. And all day, every day, the Wimmicks did the same thing. They gave each other stickers. Each Wimmick had a box of golden star stickers and a box of gray dot stickers. Up and down the streets, all over the city, people spent their days sticking stars and dots to one another. The pretty ones, those with smooth paint, or smooth wood and fine paint, always got stars. But if the wood was rough or the paint chipped, the Wimmicks gave dots. The talented ones got stars too. Some could lift big sticks high above their heads, or jump over tall boxes. Still others knew big words or could sing pretty songs. Everyone gave them stars. Some Wimmicks had stars all over them. Every time they got a star, it made them feel so good. It made them want to do something else to get another star. Others, though, could do little. They got dots. Punchinello was one of these. He tried to jump high like the others, but he always fell. And when he fell, the others would gather around and give him dots. Sometimes when he fell, his wood got scratched, so the people would give him more dots. Then when he would try to explain why he fell, he would say something silly, and the Wimmicks would give him more dots. After a while, he had so many dots that he didn't want to go outside. He was afraid he would do something dumb, such as forget his hat or step in the water. And then people would give him another dot. In fact, he had so many gray dots that some people would come up and give him a dot for no reason at all. He deserves lots of dots, the wooden people would agree with one another. He's not a good wooden person. After a while, Punchinello believed him. I'm not a good Wimmick, he would say. The few times he went outside, he hung around other Wimmicks who had lots of dots. He felt better around them. One day he met a Wimmick who was unlike any he'd ever met. She had no dots or stars. She was just wooden. Her name was Lucia. It wasn't that people didn't try to give her stickers, it's just that the stickers didn't stick. Some of the Wimmicks admired Lucia for having no dots. They'd run up and give her a star, but it fell off. Others would look down on her for having no stars, so they'd give her a dot, but it wouldn't stay either. That's the way I want to be, thought Punchinello. I don't want anyone to march. So he asked the stickerless Wimmick how she did it. It's easy, Lucia replied. Every day I go see Eli. Eli? Yes, Eli, the wood carver. I sit in his workshop with him. Why? Why don't you find out for yourself? Go up the hill. He's there. And with that, the Wimmick who had no stickers turned and skipped away. But will he want to see me? Punchinello cried out. Lucia didn't hear him. So Punchinello went home, and he sat near his window, and he watched the wooden people as they scurried around giving each other stars and dots. It's not right, he muttered to himself, and he decided to go see Eli. He walked up the narrow path to the top of the hill and stepped into the big shop. His wooden eyes widened at the size of everything. The stool was as tall as he was. He had to stretch to his tiptoes to see the top of the workbench.
hammer was as long as his arm. Punchinello swallowed hard. "I'm not staying here." He turned to leave. Then he heard his name. "Punchinello." The voice was deep and strong. Punchinello stopped. "Punchinello, how good to see you. Come, let me have a look at you." Punchinello turned slowly and looked at the large bearded craftsman. "You know my name?" the little woman asked. "Of course I do. I made you." Eli stooped down and picked him up and set him on the bench. The maker spoke thoughtfully, as he looked at the gray dots. "Looks like you've been given some bad marks." "I didn't mean to, Eli. I really tried hard." "Oh, you don't have to defend yourself to me, child. I don't care what the other women think." "You don't?" "No, and you shouldn't either. Who are they to give stars or dots? They're women just like you." "What they think doesn't matter, Punchinello. All that matters is what I think, and I think it's pretty special." Punchinello laughed. "Me? Special? Why? I can't walk fast, I can't jump, my pain is peeling. Why do I matter to you?" Eli looked at Punchinello, put his hands on those small wooden shoulders and spoke softly. "Because you're mine. That's why you matter." Punchinello had never had anyone talk to him like this, much less as a maker. He didn't know what to say. "Every day I've been hoping you'd come," Eli explained. "I came because I met someone who had no marks," said Punchinello. "I know. She told me about you." "Why don't the stickers stay on her?" The maker spoke softly. "Because she has decided that what I think is more important than what they think. The stickers only stick if you let them." "What?" "The stickers only stick if they matter to you. The more you trust my love, the less you care about the stickers." "I'm not sure I understand." Eli smiled. "You will, but it will take time. You've got a lot of marks. For now, just come and see me every day, and let me remind you of how much I care." Eli lifted Punchinello off the bench and set him on the ground. "Remember," Eli said as the women walked out the door, "you are special because I made you, and I don't make mistakes." Punchinello didn't stop, but in his heart he thought, "I think he really means it." And when he did, a dot fell to the ground. When we stand here facing a world full of superficial stickers, we have to realize that we are special. We are special because we believe that God's love, His opinion of us, is more important than anybody else's opinion. As I stand here today, I feel fortunate to be able to look back at my life at Highland and see that I had the opportunity to spend it with people like you, special people. I would like to take this time to say thank you to all of you, because I would not have wanted to spend this time with a different group of people. You're all very important to me. Thank you.
I want to restate something that Erin read in her speech. It's Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 8. It says, "The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged." Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. You know, the Lord commands us more than one time in the Bible not to worry. So I guess it means that pretty much all of us are sinning pretty bad right now. But I want to show you guys something. When I got this, it blew my mind. It's real little. Can you see that? It's a little cross. And it feels like it's maybe wooden. And it's so perfect. It's the exact shape of a cross. What this is are different forms of crystals formed together. And they're found just like this, embedded into rock. Found just like this. They don't have this little loop for a necklace. They're found just like this. And that amazes me. To me, that means one obvious thing. That no matter where you go, no matter what's going on, no matter what you're thinking, no matter what you're struggling with, God is always there. Always. Just waiting for you to call Him. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you so much for all the opportunities that you've given me in my life, all the times that you let me share with other people, Lord, the way that you brought me up in my family and with the friends that you have given me.
and the place that you've allowed me to be. Lord, if we each took time and just thought about each blessing that you've given us, Father, we wouldn't have time to count them all, because you are such an awesome and gracious and loving God. Lord, I pray that each day we will come to know that a little more, and come to realize that a little more, and come to know you better. I just pray, Lord, that as we go on with our lives, and I know some of us aren't leaving for a few more months, but just help us to remember to keep you on our minds every day, and know that, Lord, you're always there. You've got too many things all around us to deny it. You've given us too many things to say it's not true. And I just want to pray that you'll be in each of our hearts, that you'll help us encourage one another and lift each other up. And I pray that, Lord, when those tough times do hit, to remember that, Lord, the one who made us, made the heavens and earth, and made everything there is, guides our lives, goes ahead of us and makes plans for us, Father. All we have to do is let your Spirit lead us through it. In Jesus' name I pray.
Am I supposed to say anything? I said, yeah, you're supposed to get into a little pamphlet. He said, who is? I said, you are. Thank y'all for coming. We've got the reception back in the back, so y'all come on back, let's visit fellowship and enjoy one another's company.